one of the biggest things in medicine is microbiome therapeutics, and where they're treating people with new types of microbes to combat disease. Back then, I knew that the longest living people in the world usually had the healthiest microbes, and fecal matter transplants were just getting started. And you transfer microbes from healthy people to sick people, and the sick people get healthy. So I went in search with the fact that, if healthy people have the healthiest microbiomes, I'm going to look for the healthiest people in the world. For the last 6 years, we've been on a worldwide quest to visit all the longevity zones in the world, what are called blue zones by Dan Buettner, and cold spots, where there's low incidence of disease. For example, Copper Canyon in Mexico, where they absolutely have a very low incidence of diabetes, and northern India in the Punjab, where they have a very low incidence of Alzheimer's and very low incidence of Parkinson's. I've been focusing on this zone in Greece in an island called Ikaria. And we've been working with an organic winery there, Faena Winery, and working with the resident microbiologist, and he's a professor emeritus at the University of Athens. He found some very unique microbes on the grapes in Greece, and specifically on that island, that gives people the ability to basically live a long life. And like over 30% of the population are over 90 years old. And when you're talking to these people, they're, they don't even talk about their age. So their mindset is not even about aging. It's not longevity. And we started noticing that, perhaps it isn't just the food that they're eating. It may be the microbes are having some sort of effect. And sure enough, we started doing microbiome studies on people on this island, and especially the older people, and their microbiomes are vastly different from the people that have lived on the island, that have left the islands, that are living in Athens. So they have by DNA analysis, their microbiomes are vastly different because their foods they're eating are different. And but when they came back on the island to eat the same foods and to drink the same wines and to drink the same vinegars on their food, their microbiomes changed, the younger people. Their health status would change as well. We started on this quest to say, look, maybe it's not just the food. Maybe the microbes have a stake in the body's whole being and whole wellness. And maybe it's not just the microbes, it's the way that they're processing the foods inside their body. Our labs in Utah, we've been discovering like a whole new class of compounds. And these compounds allow the body to make metabolites like vitamins, like lipopolysaccharides, like single proteins that allow the body to basically face life and face all of its challenges head on. One thing I've noticed about Western medicine as it is now is we're very reactive to our diseases. So we get atherosclerosis, let's do something about it. We get diabetes, now let's do something about it. And so we're reactive. But in our lifestyles, in our athletes, in our studies, we're very proactive. The best football teams, for example, are the offensive machines. They're the ones that go out there and assemble the best minds and the best assets to go out and score a bunch of points. So why don't we amass these tools and give the microbes the things that we need to allow them to amass our bodies with overwhelming healthy assets. When we talk about diet, we talk about nutrition, and when I talk about nutrition, I'm talking nutrition on the most basic levels. Because I'm a microbiologist, I believe that the microbes, that the human body is actually an extension of the microbial life. We're just their extension. They've been here for millions of years. We've only been here for a fraction of that time, and they're using us as their stage to live a million more years. And they're actually very intelligent. If we recognize that fact that we have all, how many cells does the human body have? Like over 100 trillion? And it's proven now that 90% of that 100 trillion are microbes, and only 10% are human cells. And the majority of those microbes live in our gut. And they're all like little computers. And they want this body to live. They have a stake. They're the biggest stakeholder in our body. We are not. I come up with this new way of thinking about the microbes in our gut, which we call our gastrointestinal tract, or our GI tract. And frequently, when we relabel things, we tend to subconsciously think differently about those things. I would like to think as the microbes as our little computers in our gut. And they're the ones making all of our vitamins. Like the only reason why, we have to take B12 exogenously is because we don't make enough in our gut. But there's a lot of microbes that make B12 in our gut. If we pack more of these microbes that make B12, we don't have to take B12. And you can be vegan and plant-based all you want. You just have to have the proper microbes. You just need to arm them because they have the intelligence and they have the will to make our lives a limitless life. So these are intelligent little computers living in our gut. And you can sense that, our gut is like one big condominium complex of like 90 trillion organisms, right? And they're like biological computers and they have an intelligence behind them. In fact, our gut is called our second brain. So, if we have like a mental intelligence, we have emotional intelligence, and great athletes have what's called kinesthetic intelligence. Like Michael Jordan has amazing kinesthetic intelligence. And now with our iPhones and our computers, with Google and the cloud, we have artificial intelligence. So we have the AI, we have knowledge intelligence, we have emotional intelligence, we even have heart intelligence. But no one ever talks about biological intelligence, the intelligence that's housed in our gut, our second brain. I think it balances out all the other intelligence, especially the AI, the technological intelligence. The more I see my child playing with my phone, she's only 2.5 years old, she already knows how to use the mouse, and she already knows how to use her little iPad, so we're trying to take this away from her. But we need to balance it out. We need to balance out the technological information and our dependence on artificial intelligence with biological intelligence, because this is native, wildcrafted intelligence that's coming from the earth. Every time we eat food, we, as a human body, we don't actually eat the food. The first thing that eats it are the microbes in our body. We eat the fermentation products. We actually eat the waste products from 10 layers of microbes that are in our gut. Once we get food into our stomach and it enters the beginning parts of our small intestine, where there's a lot of oxygen, it gets broken down by those bacteria into primary metabolites, basically their waste product. Then there's a second set of microbes that take it and break it down into metabolites. And these metabolites get sifted out of the intestine into our body. That's what we eat for food. These metabolites, for example, are small chain fatty acids. The most recognizable are three, are butyric acid, propionic acid, and acetic acid. But there are smaller ones called oxaloacylic acid, pyruvate, and malic acid. And they make up the acids that are actually the food for the main bacteria in our body that provides fuel for every single cell, called the mitochondria. So I call the mitochondria the main bacteria. Believe it or not, it's got evolutionary genes that make it into, it's literally a bacteria. So these compounds are what I'm calling like these limitless compounds. It makes us live a limitless lifestyle. And we don't focus on preparing and nutrifying and getting our body to amass as many of these offensive assets as possible. And this is what I call a proactive wellness model. What we've been doing is, in our lab, we've been replicating this super fermentation model. And we're literally creating these limitless metabolites. And these metabolites are solely there to optimize our longevity.